It's 4:30.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, you guys are all on it.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the West Newbury Board of Health meeting. It's 4:30, April 13th, 2021. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30, Section 18, and the Governor's March 23rd, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the West Newbury Board of Health will be conducted by a remote participation to the greatest extent possible. First of all, I want to welcome everybody. I want to set some ground rules. We will allow anybody that wants to speak. I ask, first of all, that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you have another question after your 3 minutes, you may also, after everybody else has spoken, be able to re-speak. We would expect everybody to respect everybody else's ability to speak without making any rude and unpleasant or uncalled for comments. I will read the reason for this and the bylaw, and then we'll open up the general discussion. The proposed bylaw for the West Newbury Board of Health reads as follows. All legal dwellings with an address in a town except or on a town accepted public way will receive one 65-gallon cart for household solid waste, as well as one 65-gallon cart for recyclables, and it must be used for West Newbury automated curbside collection. The town issued carts, they have the town seal, are the property of town of West Newbury and are assigned to the West Newbury household. Any trash and recycling in excess of this one 65-gallon designated cart issued by the town will be the responsibility of the property owner to dispose of properly. Mattress and box springs are banned from the disposal and incineration. That's the regulation. Now I will read the curbside collection. This is for the fees for the additional carts. 12-month permits run fiscal year July 1st to June 30th. Additional carts, trash, or recycling are $100 each. Sticker for additional cart, which is an annual fee, $200. If purchased after July 1st, price will be prorated at $16.50 per month. Recycling sticker for additional cart, an annual fee, is $100. Purchased after July 1st, prices will be prorated at $8.25 per month. Bulk item stickers up to 25 pounds, $20. Items over 25 will require 2 stickers. At this point, I would like to open up the discussion to the general public. If anybody has comments?
Before we open, I think we should, well, we've already opened, but before we move on, you introduce.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just be safe, okay?
Okay. I'm Bob James, Chairman of the Board of Health. This is Blake Seal.
Yep, I'm Blake Seal, board member.
And I'm Tom Fahey, board member.
And also with us tonight is Jason Mello from Jason Mello Corporation, the trash contractor, and Paul Savigny, our health agent.
I don't know if anyone else on the board would like to make a comment maybe before we open. I know Tom might, I think Tom had.
Please, by all means.
I think what I'd like to do is listen to the discussion.
Okay.
And after the discussion and the comments from the public, I think I'd be better suited to make any comments.
Perfect.
So I think at this point, Chairman James is open for discussion. I think the best thing for me to do is call your name in order on the screen, that we can try to keep some order. We'll see how that goes. So first on the discussion is Peter Broderick. If he has any comments, please unmute yourself and address the board. Hearing none, Brian Murphy, if you want to address the board, please unmute yourself. Next is Posey Dieter. Any comments?
Something's not either working correctly.
Are we sure these people can hear us?
Yeah, hey, this is Posey Theater. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. This is a complete surprise to me. And I'm just curious to understand a little bit about the history behind why this decision was made. I just feel like all of a sudden this has been thrust upon us. And I'm just curious.
I can respond to that. We just came up a little over a year ago for a new disposal contract. We selected the G Mello Corporation, Disposal Corporation for that. He gave us a little bit of insight on A, it would be a little bit cheaper for us to go automated, and B, it's kind of the thing of the future, which I'd really rather Jason Mello, if he could comment about how it's becoming the industry standard.
So more and more communities every year are converting to automated pickup. It's more streamlined, it's safer for the workers. It's definitely the future. The Northeast is really the last area of the country to really convert to this, and it's happening everywhere. Malden is converting right now. Newbury and Newbury currently do it for recycling, and it's just it's going to happen at some point. And being that it was time for a new contract, I felt like this was a good time to bring it up, and we had the discussion, and the board and the board of selectmen, I can safely say, all agree with it. Hopefully, we can hear me with this.
Can you hear us all right?
Gary, give us a thumbs up or thumbs down.
It's very difficult to understand what you're saying.
Would you like me to repeat myself, or would you like Jason Mello to repeat himself, or both of us?
And Jason very
The
well.
sound is very fuzzy. Very fuzzy sound.
All right, well, what I said is that contract for disposal of trash came up last year to renew. We chose the G Mello Corporation to do that. And when we were speaking with Jason, he's let us in on that it would certainly be a little bit cheaper to go this route. And it's also a thing of the future that everyone will be doing it. Mr. Mello said that a lot of the countries already doing this. We're kind of one of the last to do it. It finally caught up with us, and that's why we decided to go with automated.
So automated collection is becoming the industry standard across the country. The Northeast is definitely the last area of the country to fully implement this, but it is happening everywhere. Hazel has converted half of theirs. Newbury and Amesbury has converted their recycling, but not the trash yet. Cities like Malden are converting as we speak this week. And as contracts come up, which are generally always July 1st, because that's the town's fiscal year, that's always the best time to do the conversion at the start of a new contract. And it's safer for the employees. It's safer driving the streets. It's a sturdier barrel. It's cleaner. The town will look much more uniform. And we felt, as well as the board and the board of selectmen, that now is a good time to do this.
Gary Roberts, do you have anything you'd like to say to the board?
Yeah, I've actually have a couple of questions. There were a couple surveys distributed over the past couple years, and my recollection of the feedback on that was overwhelmingly in support of a maintenance of service that they'd already received. Unfortunately, based on the feedback that I've heard from some residents, is the barrel that's being proposed is sort of an imperfect solution for everyone. It's too much trash for folks without children and not enough trash for people with children. And it seems unfair to force someone to pay for a barrel if they need an additional barrel that they're not going to get to keep. Not that you need it for anything, but it seems decidedly unfair to suggest that that's a reasonable thing to do.
Gary, Bob
Yeah.
James,
Hi, Bob.
first of all, we are not charging you for a barrel.
Well, I guess my point is, Bob, that if I needed an extra barrel, I'd have to pay for an extra barrel.
1 year.
And it's mentioned that this is less money, but it's not really an apples to apples comparison because the level of service has been reduced. So even though the cost is less, you're not getting what you were getting before.
How has the service been reduced?
Well, you have a reduction in the amount of barrels. Residents are no longer allowed to put a large item out. There's all sorts of things that come to mind.
First of all, Gary, you were allowed 2 32-gallon barrels today, which is 64 gallons. When we get the new barrels, they are 65 gallons, and it's going to be 1 barrel. So we are not eliminating any of the amount of trash you put out.
Well, I don't actually even get
Second-
residential trash pickup, Bob. So I'm just, I'm participating on behalf of my neighbors.
Second, if somebody has, I understand, we have a couple of gentlemen or people in town that are in their 90s. One of these barrels, the guy would probably take 6 months to fill up.
Yeah.
There are other people that have a large family, they will probably take 2. But everybody pays basically the same amount of money in their taxes for the trash. So some guy or a family with 2 barrels is paying the same amount for their trash as this guy that has 1. They're creating an extra amount of trash that we have to pay for in the tipping fees. So that money has got to come from someplace, so it may just come from the people that are using it.
But wouldn't it equal out if there was a family that had more barrels and, like, say, a couple without children that had fewer in the aggregate?
Go ahead,
What's this gentleman's name?
Gary Roberts.
Mr. Roberts, this
Yeah.
is Blake.
Hi.
Hi. My question to you is how are they currently doing it now, seeing we only allow 64 gallons of trash a week?
I drive around town and I see people with families have more than that in front of their house, and it's usually taken.
Well, the Mellow Corporation has been very generous by picking it up because we basically tell them they're only allowed to pick up 2 barrels per household. If they do, on occasion, have additional trash, the Mellows will pick it up. But at the end of the day, it's 2 32-gallon drums versus a 65-gallon drum. I think it remains the same.
No, I disagree, but okay.
That's fine. That's okay.
Also,
Mr. Mello would like to chime in on that.
Sure.
So on average, across the country, each person generates 800 pounds of trash and recyclables per year, per person. The average 4-person household, for the most part, will not fill a 65-gallon cart. If they're recycling properly, you should fill a 65-gallon cart every other week, and your trash 65-gallon cart will not be full every week. And we've done the 1 65-gallon cart in the report for 12 years. And it's worked. There are some people that have that requested extras, but for the most part, you drive around and all houses have 1 65-gallon cart.
and Gary.
Yeah.
Bob James again.
Yeah.
Your second question was to the survey we had put out.
Right.
We had done it twice, if you remember, and it was
Yeah.
about a pay-as-you-throw program. I think when Angus became working for the town, I think he had a question about that. We put out the survey again. about doing some form of pay-as-you-throw. Unanimously, people in this town do not want really to change the pay-as-you-throw. It wasn't about the amount of barrels. It was a pay-as-you-throw program.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
I look at your offering of one standard trash and one standard recycling barrel, which makes perfectly good sense for the most part. There are some times when there's an exception, i.e. Christmas time, you get more trash, you get more recycling. I really don't want to have to buy an extra barrel and pay an annual fee when I only need the exceptions 2 or 3 times in the year. So why isn't there an alternative exception basis to say, rather than saying, hey, it's either all one way or all another, but we can manage an exception thing?
You want to? That wouldn't work out for most people, but you do have the option, which, you know, we obviously don't want to see you do. You can take it to Georgetown transfer station if you only once or twice a year. I don't think anyone could come up with a solution to that answer unless you have one for us. I'm not sure who I'm talking to.
I take it that there is no realistic answer to my question then. Thank you.
So, Tom Payne from Board of Health. So that is a concerning thing because I have a family that generates extra trash sometimes during the year, especially around the holidays. And I try to take advantage of the recycling, what can be recycled as far as boxes and paper and all that kind of stuff. But I would ask Jason Mello, with our additional option of having a bulk item be able to be put out 4 times a year, would that be something that could accommodate those situations where people may have additional trash for 1 or 2 times a year and need to get rid of it?
But I would not have the additional receptacle required under your new automation program.
Let Jason explain how that would work, if it would work.
So one thing with carts is it's a way for the town to be able to budget.
Speak up a little bit. No.
The carts is one way to control disposal, control recycling. Recycling is not free anymore. It's almost as much money to get rid of recyclables as it is to get rid of trash. So a lot of towns adopt the carts because it's their way of being able to control how much is produced and be able to actually budget for it. We have agreed to still do the bulk item pickup, just not one bulk item every single week. If the town chose to allow one of those bulk item pickups to be around Christmas time, and that be the time that people can put out extra material, whether it be in bags or one of their own barrels, because that the bulk items do get picked up with the standard reeler truck. If that's what the town wanted to do, we could offer that. I would have no problem with that.
But we would then have to pay for those bulk items, correct?
Correct.
That's up to you guys.
Yep. Yes.
The bulk items, yes, they get paid.
Right.
Extra trash on Christmas, that's up to you guys.
That's something we can discuss. I don't think it's something we unfortunately can make a determination.
I have a couple questions. Hi, I'm Lauren. I don't know if everybody can see me here. What is the current cost of the municipal waste versus doing this new program?
What's the difference in cost from picking it up automated to?
Yes. What's the Yeah. What is the current cost of it now versus what we're going to or trying to go to here?
Well, we can save approximately $20,000 a year, and it'd be approximately with the Mellows contract, it would be 5 years, so that's $100,000 possible savings. Is that what you were looking for?
Yes, yes, okay, yes. And then is there a reason why there isn't a consideration, sorry if this is a bit redundant, I just joined, why there isn't a 96 gallon?
96 gallons?
Yeah,
Is that what you said, ma'am? 96?
yes.
Because then we'd be defeating the purpose, because right now our current rules that we put in place in 2002 was for 232-gallon trash containers. We certainly don't want to encourage people to double their trash.
So my concern really is I try to recycle as much as possible. This may fall into like maybe another category of problems, but the single stream recycling is very confusing because I end up having to throw out or recycle separately in a different way all of the bags and plastic that is not accepted through the single stream recycling that adds to my trash. I mean, and I have a family of 5 living with me. So short of trying to like get ahead of it and push it down and break it down, I'm just wondering if this is a concern for anybody else in terms of the amount of trash, I mean, that they're putting out.
Well, as far as plastic bags, I think we've all known for a while they're not recyclable at all. They're trash. I'm not sure if you were questioning that. I don't know if you can hear me, but I kind of couldn't hear quite your whole question. But if you recycle properly, it should come out once again to the same, like Mr. Mello just said. 1 barrel should do a family of 4 for 2 weeks. As far as overflow, we do, and I know people don't want to hear it, but we do offer Pipe Save Hill Recycling Center. We know it's an inconvenience sometimes, but I personally go up there every single weekend. So it's another way of getting rid of your recyclables.
Has anyone looked into the traffic that will cause at Pipe Save every weekend if the entire town has to go drop off a load on every weekend?
Well, we're hoping they don't drop it off all on the same day.
But for us working people, what's going to happen?
And to answer your question, no, we have not looked into a traffic study.
I have another follow-up question for the replacements of stolen carts. I don't know that there should be a fee for something that is stolen. Maybe if like somebody does a police report for stolen carts, they get a replacement for free. It doesn't seem like people should be penalized.
What's the thing you put your trash?
We're gonna let Jason Mello answer that. He seems to, with all the towns he's dealt with, I don't know that he's actually had too many that were stolen, but he can explain that to you.
Thank you.
I have seen very few carts actually get stolen. The biggest issue is when people move and they don't leave it behind. That's something that can be addressed with the local realtors, and that's what Newbury did. But the physically stealing the cart, especially in this community, I don't see that happening.
Secondary question. Go ahead.
Good name. My name is Elva Cohen, and I'm on 113 on Main Street. And I have some practical questions which I've seen other people address on next door West Newbury. We're on a main street. My understanding is that we have to place the barrel exactly, where they tell us to. But it's not always possible on Main Street because the snow, the state trucks, it's a state road, very difficult. Also, we're technically senior citizens, although we're fairly capable of a lot of things, but moving the barrel that's larger than the barrel we currently use could be a problem, maybe for us, but for a lot of older people in town. Long driveway, long way to go, wondering how you're addressing the needs of people who are older, who may have some physical disabilities.
Also, I want to know what's the absolute cost, not delta, but
Whoever's speaking, we cannot hear you.
as opposed to the next system. What's the absolute cost?
That was 2 questions coming from us. So let's address the practical matter of the barrel placement and carrying it out first.
Paul, is there any way you can-
I don't know how you get recognized, unfortunately.
So, Elva, the board had trouble hearing you. You were all garbled. true, so I'm not sure if it was on your end or not, but we get public hearing from here.
Okay, I'm gonna try it again. Can you hear me now?
That's much better.
Okay, my question is two. We live on 113, and as most people know, we have the state road and the trucks are coming down and, putting the snow in very different places. It's gonna be very difficult. We have a long driveway, very difficult to place the cart exactly where they want us to place it so they can pick it up. That's an issue. My second issue is these barrels are much larger than what we normally use. We're technically senior citizens, and looking at a larger barrel, particularly in the winter in the snow, could be an issue. And I've seen on next door West Newbury that a lot of people are addressing the concern, bringing that barrel down a long driveway, placing it exactly, considering snow plows, et cetera, and it could be a liability, for older people or people that have any kind of physical challenges. So it's even more than the cost. It's, how, everybody in town is going to deal with this situation, particularly placing it in a particular place.
Who is this person?
Eva Cobalt.
You can hear it.
Alva Cobalt.
And I have,
They let him ask that first.
so let me ask a question too. I'm her husband, Osborne. I live in the same address. What I would like to know is what are the absolute cost of the current system compared to the new system? I'm not interested in the delta of 20,000. That could be percentage-wise.
Excuse me, ma'am or sir. I believe, because I'm not sure who's speaking. You have got to get to a better connection to be able to speak with us. We cannot hear you.
I can address the first one.
Jason can address the first question, which I couldn't hear.
I can address the first question. I didn't hear that. I couldn't make out the second question, but the first question, as I understood it, was we live on.
Why can't they hear me?
I think it has to go back. Wait, let me know they're talking.
Can you mute everyone?
Right. The way I understood your question is, you live on Main Street, you're concerned about snow and placement of the barrel and the ease or difficulty of maneuvering the barrel. I don't know what you're using for barrel now, but these barrels are actually much easier to maneuver than your standard trash barrel that you're gonna buy at Home Depot or Lowe's. They have oversized wheels. They're designed to make it easier on you. And until you try it yourself, I know it's hard to believe, but they will be much easier and they're much sturdier. They will roll through the snow easier than an existing barrel. And as long as the barrel gets close to the street, the truck will be able to pick it up.
Yep.
Jason, will these barrels on 113, when they're placed, can they be placed on the edge of the curb? They don't need to be out in the street, do they?
I don't think you're answering the question.
We're still talking about my.
They just have to be close to the street.
Okay, close to the street, not obstructed?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Catherine Smith, do you have any questions for the board?
Can I ask another question named John Lambert?
Hold on one second here, John.
Yeah, why
Okay.
What's going on here?
Tom Salvo, do you have any questions for the board? All right, hearing none, John Lambert, come back on.
John Lambert, are you back on? You can talk now.
Good, now it's turned on. Okay, you were talking about snow. When it snows and the snow plows are out, they wreak havoc along the edges of the road. If that creates damage to the receptacle, who becomes responsible for the replacement of that?
That's why the barrel should be on your property, right close.
You haven't seen how the snow plows below the snow.
I haven't run into the issue of plows destroying the barrels.
Yeah, we've had this before. Have you had a problem with your trash receptacle in the time you've been living in West Newbury?
I've had it knocked over. I've had it knocked into the woods.
Was the answer no? I couldn't
Have
hear
I had a
you.
problem with it?
There's been no-
I've had it knocked over. I've had it knocked in the woods. I've had the lid smashed. Other than that, no problem.
Well, it's gonna be no different with these barrels.
Okay, so it means then what I'm hearing you say is obviously I'm not going to be responsible if the thing is damaged by the snowplow. Thank you.
Ultimately, if you bring us something that the snowplow hit it and you tell us, I'm sure we can replace your receptacle, the one we supplied, at no charge.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. Huh? I know.
Kevin Bowles, do you have any comments for the board?
No. I did ask a question about what is the percentage this $20,000 represents of the total contract?
Like about approximately a little under 10%.
So it's a $200,000 a year contract, basically?
It's actually over that, but we're using rough numbers to say 10%. I said a little less than 10%.
And just to understand it, I think, is it safe to say that it's reducing the labor of at least one out of, is it 2 or 3 people that is generally the labor? And how much labor is being replaced?
I would say that they generally have 2 people on the back of the truck. So possibly 2, but I think Mr. Mello, is going to take good care of them.
I guess my general question or point is, how much of this is, I just have a feeling that there's more than $20,000 being saved in this operation. And I just wonder, and I think you're hearing a lot of feedback from members in the town, how much a 10% reduction of our costs are worth the kind of inconvenience and concern that people are raising here. And I just want to point out, I guess, that not only is the town saving money here, but I suspect that Mr. Mello is raising his profit on this. So I just want to point out that there's a lot of other factors going on, and it seems like you're ready to put a lot of people in town through a lot of inconvenience for the sake of a 10% increase or 10% decrease in costs. And that's just an observation as opposed to a comment or a question. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Bell Hornblower, do you have any comments for the board?
Lisa?
Bell, you want to speak to the board?
Can you hear him? Steve, can you hear what he's saying? What is he saying?
Your microphone's
Oh.
on.
Hi, my name is Catherine. May I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm sorry, sometimes you're muddled, so I was having difficulty hearing you. We live at the very end of a cul-de-sac. So I have some concerns. I know you're coming along the street and marking where we're supposed to place these receptacles. We truly are at the end of the cul-de-sac, and when it's plowed in the wintertime, there is pretty much a wall of snow. So I have some question about where we're placing it, and given that there's a handful of houses at the end of our cul-de-sac, are you going to designate which house goes where? And are you aware of where snow piles up on those circumstances? That's one question. The other is, we have lived here 20 years. We've always been able to put our trash in an SUV and drive it down this very steep hill. You've now made it so that my husband and I are going to have to figure out how to hoss these puppies down to the bottom, no longer using a car, and I'm not buying a pickup truck to do it. So if you have some thoughts on this, I mean, this is a great system. I've seen it in cities all over the country. In fact, I think it works really great in cities and towns that have small, flat driveways. But when you're talking about a predominantly rural area where driveways really vary from residence to residence, and since I've done census work in this town, I've driven up some incredible driveways. Can you address how this can be easier for us, for those of us who truly do want to support this, but it's a little daunting, I think. And I would like to just have somebody put that daunting aside for me. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. This is Bob James, Chairman of the Board. I can verify I'm not alone. There's over about 200 long driveways in the town, so all of us have the same problem. There are 2 members of the Board of Selectmen, 2 members of this board, the town clerk, that also have the same issue of a long driveway. Not quite sure how that's going to play out, but you know, you aren't the only one.
I'll address that. I've talked to many people and a lot of people have had the same question. I personally have a 400 or 500 foot driveway. It may not be as long as yours, but if it's an issue of getting the barrel down there full, I would certainly recommend leaving your barrel down near the street and transport your trash on a daily, 2 days, whatever it takes you on a bag, fill a bag and bring it, just walk it down or drive it down in your car to your trash receptacle towards the end of your driveway. Does that help you at all?
I think my neighbors would not be pleased to see 2 large trash receptacles sitting at the end of my driveway. This is a beautiful town we live in, and there are people who work very hard to maintain their properties. I think that is totally unacceptable. And believe me, I've even stood there and looked at my 2 garden areas which border my driveway going, well, I wonder if I should build a shed for them to live in here. But I think that that's just to leave them on the street. I don't really think that's your intent when you set this up for us to do that.
Ma'am, I did not say leave them at the end of your driveway. I said leave them towards the end of your driveway.
You know, that's pretty much the same thing because it's a big giant yard and it has a driveway and they're gonna stand out there somewhere. There's no place to hide them.
I was just trying to give you a solution to your problem. I'm sorry.
No, I am fine with that. And believe me, I have already looked at this and tried to figure out a way to make this work for us. But I know I'm not the only one, and you've said I'm not the only one. So I thought that you ought to hear another voice in the wilderness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
I'd like to comment. I'd like to comment on that, and I know that that it is a huge issue for people that have long driveways that have developed a strategy to get their trash down to the end of their driveway for pickup. And I understand how these barrels can be considered quite cumbersome when you have a plan that you can get down, whether it's a pickup truck or an SUV or whatever, that you're able to get your trash down. But when we looked at this, and when I looked at this as far as an option, and I realized that there were the constraints of trying to get a marketable price for a contract for trash pickup, the concerns that we have with the tonnage and the amount of money that we're paying separately to get rid of the trash, and that whole separate amount of money that we have to deal with. You try to put everything together in the sense that you're trying to control tonnage. And I think the town has been very liberal about being able to put out extra weight and extra volume every week. And I think that part of what we're doing here is we're addressing that, trying to put in some kind of an incentive to control the trash that you produce and or increase recycling and or pay additional extra if you need to. If you have a big family, I understand that. But overall, I think what I did was I looked at for the best needs of the town. And I know that I'm not going to accommodate everybody. I know that there are people that are going to be concerned with the size of it, the weight of it, wheeling it around. But I look at it and I say, well, I think this is probably the best thing to do. And hopefully everybody can accommodate, come up with a new strategy on how to handle their trash and how to get it down the driveway and try to meet the needs of everybody. I think the Mello Corporation has been very accommodating to deal with the special nuances. And when we had some of our meetings, we talked about specific places in town that may have issues with trucks getting down them and how we would be able to help these people out so that it's not too much of an inconvenience. But I think that this is, once again, a progression of how we deal with trash. Where 60 or 70 years ago, you used to have a burn barrel, you'd burn it out back. And then we went to having a town dump that you could dump stuff at, and that's how you got rid of stuff. And then we went to trash pickup, and that was a change. Now you have to find barrels and put it at the end of your driveway. And I find trash pickup and recycling pickup one of the things that I value the most about what I pay taxes for. You know, police, fire, trash pickup. So I understand it, and I think that the people that have long driveways, it's going to be a challenge. But I think that overall, we're meeting the majority of the needs of the people in West Newbury, and I know that there's going to be concessions. So I just wanted to make that comment about the decision to do this, my own personal decision.
Steve Smith, do you have any comments for the board?
No.
Paul, this is Wendy Reed. I just want to call your attention to the chat. There are a number of questions in there and comments that are not being addressed. And also, I think it would be really useful if this meeting was being recorded for people who weren't able to make the early, evening start time. Thank you.
I believe the meeting is being recorded by the town, Wendy. And I do see some chats coming in, and we're going to try to address them later on.
All right, thanks.
There's a lot of people on the call, so we're just trying to get through them in some kind of orderly fashion. So Richard Baker, would you like to address the board?
Yes, I do. Couple of issues. First of all, is that the only size barrel you can do? Is it possible to provide accept a barrel that will fit in an SUV?
The only size barrel smaller than this is a 32-gallon barrel, and they're not sturdy. The wheels are smaller. They're very tipsy. These are the most durable. And in all honesty, this is a barrel that you could drag this with your car and you're not going to damage the barrel. You could come up with a system on the trailer hitch on your SUV to be able to put a bungee cord around it. You could drag this down your 400-foot driveway and it will not damage the barrel. I can tell you that.
I'm getting older, and we've got a very long, very rough gravel driveway that goes up a hill and around a corner. I wouldn't suggest anybody attach that. The problem that I'm hearing through this whole hearing is that you're going to put the burden on the elderly and the disabled and prevent them from being able to get their trash down to the side of the road for those of us that are in the outback of West Newbury. And I think that's an ADA violation. And I'd like the town to consider that yes, you're saving some money, but you're putting your burden on the people that the government, at least the federal government, says we have to protect. The solutions I'm hearing just aren't going to work. You can't leave a barrel by the side of the road. You've got animals. This is rural West Newbury. You've got raccoons and bears and squirrels and all sorts of things that'll get in there and spew the trash all over the town. And it doesn't fit with the character of the town to have trash cans all over the sides of the street. We're a very nice town. We just put in a sign bylaw because we didn't want to see signs on the side of the road. Everything about this is going against the character of the town. Dumping it on the elderly and or making an option of
taking away the character of the town just doesn't work.
I mean, I commented on it before. I understand what you're saying, but if you can keep your barrel 15 feet off of the edge of the roadway, if you have a long driveway, and bring your trash up on a daily routine and drop it in it, there's one way to execute it. If you have your barrels like I do down near my house, the bears can get there as well as they can up near the street. I certainly don't want my trash blown around. I understand that. But the only difference is one large barrel. I do understand that, but my simple solution, I don't know if it's simple, is leave it down towards the end of your driveway so you don't have to carry it down your long driveway.
That doesn't work. That doesn't keep the animals out of it. Our barrels are always kept inside the building so that the animals can't get in it. You know, you're a rural, this is a city solution for a rural community.
Someone should stop talking about it.
All right, I know that some of the DP individuals that unmuted themselves, so you can go ahead and take the floor and address the board.
Yeah, this is Don Bokar and Cindy Bokar. Apparently, from what we heard earlier, there was a survey that was held out, and the survey said, although actually we never got a copy of the survey, but the report apparently was that said the majority of the town, I guess by far apparently, favored leaving the system essentially as it is. And so I wonder why we aren't thinking about that, because we're essentially talking apparently $20,000 for the town for a year. Do we have that choice of just electing to going the current service, having the current service and maybe some improvements, but leaving the current system as is and paying $20,000 more?
You want to take it? You want to take it? We always have the choice, sir, but like we said, if you listen to myself and Mr. Mello earlier, this is something we're not going to have a choice probably in the next 5 years. Most of the country is already doing this. I realize that change is tough. It's going to be change for everyone in this room also. So to save the 20,000, we're trying to do it now. We're trying to get on track with the way the rest of the country is doing this. And they're doing it in just as rural communities as this.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure. Sis.
This is Cindy Bokar. We spend a lot of time in Seattle where they use this very effectively, but those barrels are very, very heavy, even to get them a short distance of 10 or 20 feet out to the street to be picked up. The idea that somebody's going to be able to put it into their SUV or their pickup truck, that's not going to work. I don't even think that's going to work for middle-aged, able-bodied people, let alone many of us seniors who live here in town with large properties, and we have a short, steep driveway. It would not work. Plus, there is the problem of the raccoons who are continuously getting into the trash if you don't secure it inside the garage.
It's hard to see how a person can lift up, if we did have a pickup truck, and I don't know how we'd get this large of a vehicle into the bed of it.
Okay.
Anyway, that's a choice. Maybe I wonder if we somehow could have a vote to see if we want it, not necessarily here, but somewhere, as to whether we wanted to essentially try the old system for a year or so and try to make it better, and pay the whole more $20,000, or leave it, essentially leaving a system in place as it is.
What we meant when we sent out that survey is it was basically, if you read it, which people are calling in about, it was a matter of, yes, we phrased it as leave it as it is, but it was a matter of, do you want to pay as you throw or continue to have it in your tax, included in your taxes? It wasn't meant directly to keep it the same exact. At that point, we might not even have known about this automated, but I forget what date that was sent out.
All right, so moving on, Tom Ellis, do you have anything to address the board? Tom
This
Ellis?
is Jean Lambert. I have a question.
Hold on 1 second, Jane. Tom, do you have anything you'd like to say to the board? Tom Ellis?
I don't have a question at the moment, thank you. Are you asking?
Yes. All right, Jean, you can speak to the board, Jean.
Thank you. Jean Lambert, River Road. A number of people have raised objections of different kinds to this possible new process. Would it be advisable to have a pilot program that has some of these conditions enacted or done just to see if it does work in a small sampling before we go into it? You know, because some of these issues are significant, particularly for older people. I'm in that group. And my husband, I don't want him straining himself with the long driveway. And certainly we're not going to leave it near the end because that's very unsightly and this is not that kind of town. But maybe we can try some of the getting the barrels down the driveway with older people or whatever other conditions there are to see if it actually does work.
Dog or something.
Probably chasing.
Did you hear me? I'm proposing a pilot program that addresses the difficulties that have been
Just gonna have to do what I want.
discussed.
Paul says, I'll call you next. Thanks for being patient.
I don't know if any of you guys, I mean, I'm saying the same thing over, so.
All right, Steve Swallow, would like to address the board?
Yes.
Hi, I've been patient. You know, we're talking about the world is doing it this way. We're talking about safety measures, which I couldn't agree with more. We're talking about cost, and cheaper is not always better. And for West Newbury, I do not think that the money that we're saving has anything to do with the service we've been getting. And I don't know why this is being shoved down our throats, which is what I feel. And people are talking about details when the big picture is, do we want this or do we not? I personally do not. I think we've had a very good system, and as long as we can keep it, we should. And I want to know where the democracy is here. Is the Board of Health shoving this down our throats, or do I get some say in this? Please, Paul, let me know.
I don't know if you guys want to address it because I'm getting.
Does anybody
Want to take that? Should I answer them?
Yeah.
The democracy, who was that though? Was that Tom? No, that wasn't Tom.
Mr. Swallow.
You elected us three here as members of the Board of Health to hopefully do the right decisions for the town.
Yes, we did.
It's one of the first times that I personally have known since I've lived here that I would be upset with any of our board members, any of our town people to save us money. So we apologize for trying to save it, but in 5 years, you're not gonna have a choice. So we're not trying to shove it down our throats. We're trying to get us up with the rest of the country.
5 years from now is 5 years from now. We're talking about right now.
We'll be having the same conversation in 5 years, sir. Nothing else.
Fine,
will
let's
change.
have that. Let's have that in 5 years.
Well,
Amen.
unfortunately, times have come.
Thank you for your comments, Casey and Steve. Mr. Nathan Kelly, do you have anything you'd like to say to the board?
Yes, I have quite a few things I'd like to say. So first of all, I agree with Mr. Swallow. And I absolutely think that we may, as Mr. Steele has said, we may not have a choice in 5 years, but we have the choice now. And this is the wrong choice by the Board of Health. And I'm really disappointed that this is the way you gentlemen have decided. I was relieved last summer when automated was delayed, but this is a service that affects the whole town, every single household. $20,000 on a micro level, on a macro level seems great, but on a micro level, if we look at it, how that affects each household's budget, it's minimal. If you take an estimated 1,000 households of 20,000, that's $20 per household on average. Dividing that per week, each household is saving 38 cents per week. This is a bad choice for 38 cents per week, okay? And I've listened to all of the Board of Health meetings, and this is crazy, but I've done it. I've sat through over 10 hours of Board of Health meetings to listen to you gentlemen discuss this issue. And I'm extremely disappointed that this is being done this way. I listened to the meeting on February 9th, 2021, in which this issue was still not decided. You gentlemen were not decided at this point in time, but you made comments about how you wanted to avoid a vote of the town because you decided to not go for a bylaw change, but to go for a regulation change. You've also quoted incorrect statistics tonight regarding the numbers of the current values. I'm looking at the 2002 regulation right now, and it says 4 45-gallon barrels, which would be 180 gallons of trash, not 64 becoming 65. You are incorrect, sir. So if we were to consider this regulation change, this is a 63.9% reduction in service for a 4.7% savings. That is ridiculous. This is disappointing. The winters will be a disaster. You are putting our seniors at risk. How will I even put an ironing board out into the trash? It will not allow me to close the trash barrel down. Am I going to pay $20 to dispose of an ironing board? No, this is ridiculous. This should not be done. This is a bad choice. You gentlemen have made a bad decision with this decision.
Bob, can you explain the reference on the curbside recycling regulation from 2002 and how that changed to the
Absolutely.
A waste reduction plan, or can you comment on how that changed? Because
I'm looking at it right here. I see a copy of the 2002 regulation, which clearly states on December 10th, 2002, that the Board of Health, which includes 2 of the current members who have been sitting on the Board of Health for over 20 years, have voted that in place would be 4 45-gallon barrels of trash per legal address. And you're suggesting that it should now be 64 gallons. That is a 63.9% reduction in service. Additionally, the recycling reduction is immeasurable because it is currently unlimited. Additionally, we are unlimited. We are 1 week per reduction, or excuse me, 1 week per 1 item per week for bulk items. That is 100% reduction in because it is now going from a 1 item per week to a 6 times per year with a $20 to $40 per charge. So this is a significant reduction in service. This is not a small reduction in service. Not only does it change how much you can put out, but it also changes how people put their trash out. My 6-year-old son took out the trash with barrels that I had, and he's not going to be able to do that with this barrel now.
That was a misprint on that. Okay. I'm looking exactly at what you're saying, and obviously that is a misprint. I'd hate to see
Okay.
this is, I would hate to see that this is online.
If you consider the 2010,
Excuse me, sir, I allowed you to speak. Can you allow me to speak, please?
sure, and then I'm going to correct your numbers again.
Okay, I am looking at exactly what you say, and if this is what has been a misprint, which I 100% sure, because I was on the board then, that they were supposed to be reduced to 2 32-gallon barrels. I see it just like you do, and looking at it, and this is obviously something that is incorrect, and the stuff that is actually filed will say 2 32-gallon barrels. I understand what you're saying. Now you can go ahead. I'm done.
Well, first of all, I'm extremely disappointed that I was provided inaccurate documents from you, handed to Mr. Jennings, who then handed it to me tonight, if that's actually true. Second of all, there's a 2010 waste reduction program that has inaccurate information as well that says 2 32-gallon barrels, but it also says 18-gallon bags, which would add up to 72 gallons of trash. And if we're going to consider that as what's allowed, this would be a 9.7 reduction in trash allowance. So no matter how you're slicing it, based on the documents I was provided tonight, as well as the 2010 program that was put out, this is a reduction in service. From a trash perspective, it's a reduction in service from a bulk item perspective, and it's a reduction in service from a from a recycling perspective. Any way you slice it, though, it's bad for people. This is, as Mr. Baker said, a city solution slapped on a rural community.
I am sorry you feel that way, sir.
Thank you for your comments, though. I appreciate your time and your comments, the effort that you put into that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'll see you tonight at FinCom, guys.
Paulina Sports, you have any comments?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I also sympathize with the practical considerations. We have a long driveway. There is no space at the top of the driveway for a barrel, but I want to draw attention to the big picture here, which is that there is no place in our state for trash anymore. From what I understand, the landfills are closing, so our trash is going somewhere else. It's also true that China has stopped taking our recycling. So the big picture here is, despite these practical issues, is that we need to generate less trash, and we need to generate more recyclables, and then try to figure out what to do with those. But we're really, I think that's one of the goals of this change, is to get people to generate less trash. And as a household that doesn't generate a lot of trash, when I ride around West Newbury, I'm amazed to see how much trash people generate. And I feel like in the current system, I'm subsidizing the folks that generate a lot of trash. And with this pricing scheme, even though the practical considerations are tricky, with the pricing schemes, I think people who generate more trash should pay more. And I think that's something that the new proposal accomplishes. So I welcome the idea that people who make more trash pay more. But I think all of us need to try to generate less trash. And that means that I think people should start thinking about composting if they haven't already. And if they don't want to compost themselves, they should hire a company. I see the truck riding in West Newbury, a Black Earth Compost company that does it for you. And I think it's a decent service and has a lot of benefits. They even give you compost back for your garden. So I think we all need to be thinking about how to generate less of everything, because we're shipping our shit somewhere else, and it's becoming somebody else's problem when we should be dealing it within our community and within our state. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate those comments, because I think ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to decrease the amount of waste, and that's a bigger issue that everybody has as far as how much waste that we're actually generating. And I think that we talk about just the fact that these barrels are very difficult to deal with, and they're oversized. But I think part of this that we actually did consider, and I think that Mr. Mello could comment on this, is that because the town has been very liberal outside of what we had originally agreed on as far as how much trash would be picked up, and as I drive around, as the last caller mentioned, people put out a lot of stuff, and it tends to be a lot more. There tends to be a lot of variability in the types of barrels that people are using. But there's multiple barrels in front of some houses and minimal on others. But ultimately, it's not just the collection cost that we're talking about. It's the amount of tonnage that we actually have to pay, which is also going up, which is a separate item in itself and a separate contract in itself. And I think that when you go to a set size, as far as a volume goes, that doesn't necessarily have a weight per se, but it has a volume that you have to deal with. That in itself is going to help to deter, a lot of excess trash, which is a lot of excess weight, which is excess money. And although we may point to $20,000, which can seem quite minimal in the big picture, I think that Mr. Mello could comment on the fact that when this is enacted, you can see a reduction in the amount of trash that you put out, because they're a lot more concerned about recycling. Is that correct? Could you comment at all on that?
So recycling used to be free. At one point, recycling actually generated revenue. And you're correct, China stopped purchasing the recyclables from the United States with good cause, because they weren't getting a good quality product from the United States, and therefore it had to be internalized within the country. That made recycling prices skyrocket. At one point, that it far exceeded the price of trash. It has stabilized a little bit and come down, and is a little bit less than trash to get rid of. And you're correct, the landfills are all closed. The majority of waste in Massachusetts gets shipped to other states. There are still a few incinerators left, which West Newbury's trash goes to the incinerator. And I ask everyone to just keep an open mind about the barrels. And I truly feel 99% of you are not going to have a problem with this. And by having the bigger barrel, it does give you more space to recycle. And the goal is to reduce trash and increase recycling, just from, you know, a good citizen standpoint. And the more we're getting out of the trash and into recycling, it does save. And I thought that it was very well put on the fact that if you're, in order to budget, people that generate a lot more trash should have to pay more. It's the only way you could actually budget for them. I don't know if that answers anyone's question though.
All right, Mr. Harding, you would like to address the board?
Yes, Joe Harding, Steed Avenue. Thanks for everybody's time, and appreciate all the comments that have been stated already. I guess my first question is this a proposed initiative, or is this decision already decided? Because I was just doing soccer with my kids and I saw all the bins at the DPW. So just trying to understand, you know, with the comms, if this is decided, do we vote on this, or is this already decided?
That's something we're going to take up this afternoon or this evening, depending on what you want to call it, after our question and answers. Nothing has been 100%. I know how I feel about it. In my opinion, this is the best for the town. I think it's an inevitable thing that's going to happen here, and we're starting maybe earlier than people want to, but it has not been voted on yet.
Okay, and it just, the bins are already there, so that's why it makes it look like that. And so I totally understand with the streamlined approach. I appreciate, you know, reducing trash, but, you know, I guess, has there been considerations for the number of folks in a family? I just, you know, I'm looking at this myself, and, you know, obviously we're not superfluous with our buying, but I mean, I'm just looking at the recycling. Yeah, we'll take a trip to Pipe Save. We'll try to do that, but I just feel that this will reduce folks to recycle, even those that aren't filling the 65-gallon bin. I mean, we just bought new ones. I mean, and looking at the cost, I mean, if I was to do the same what we have now, I mean, I'm just looking at a unplanned expense as well. So I guess, you know, has there been considerations on the family size? It really sounds like a wash when you look at, you know, folks that are using less and then folks that are using more. Totally understand the cost, totally understand the global issues with recycling and trash, but I really do think we do need to push this off for the 5 years. And yeah, I hope it isn't already decided. Totally, you know, open for the streamlined recycling. I think it's just the number of bins and the additional cost I was looking at. So, but consideration for families, family of 5, I just, it seems like it's a lot more.
Thank you for your comments.
Elisa Graham, do you have any comments to the board, questions?
Yes, I do. First, I want to say that I agree with Paulina. I do think that the idea of being respectful of the environment is important, and the realities are that we don't have infinite places to put trash, and maybe we shouldn't. And that even goes to, you know, selecting packaging and many choices down the way. I would say that I'm a senior citizen with a long driveway with a hill, and I am not worried about managing this new fangled trash can because I've used one in a different town at an Airbnb, and it was actually very easy to do. So It was not that hard. And I don't think it takes enormous strength or dexterity to do it. And I would say that in the same town, people built little houses for their trash cans where they wanted to by the road, and it was not hideous. So I don't know how many people who are opposing have had the chance to actually use it. And from what I heard in the discussion, it sounds like this is going on in rural towns as well. So I would just say, you know, Board of Health, you're volunteers and I appreciate you're trying to do the right thing. It may not always be easy, but I know that you're trying.
Thank you, Melissa.
We thank you for the comment. Thank you very much.
Kathy, Gary, are you up there?
I know she'll want to say something.
Kathy, are you out there? All right, moving on to Diana Feeney.
Oh, hello, this is Kathy here. Sorry, I couldn't figure.
You got it.
Yes, I know I'm concerned about the long driveway because I have a 1/4 mile driveway and I've already expressed that I will try and make it work. The other concern I have is for the bulk fees. I don't understand how people are going to weigh things to determine if they're under 25 pounds or over 25 pounds. You have a bulk item, it is not going to fit on a bathroom scale. I think there should be a schedule. If you're going to do that, there should be a schedule of items. So you can look at a schedule and say, okay, this is, as somebody said, a ironing board that's going to cost me $2 as opposed to my big chair, which is going to cost me $50. And then maybe one would take it to Georgetown. But trying to weigh things, I think, is very impractical. And you're going to have to drive to the town office, which currently is closed, to pick up a sticker. So that is something that I think needs some further thought. I'm also concerned, as a couple of people are, about the winter between how the state plows 113, which is my road, and how my driveway is plowed. And having to have it away from an obstruction, it's going to end up in the middle of my driveway. I too have had my trash barrels blow over in the wind and end up with trash in my neighbor's yards. But I do understand all the other points about how this is going to be good for the town eventually. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I know, Kathy, you're just giving us, I understand, like, you know, typical stuff. We understand that. I mean, but hopefully, say an ironing board, hopefully it's metal and can be brought to the recycling center. Maybe it's not. And we're not going to hold it to the pound. What we're trying to say is, if you throw out a chair that one of us is sitting on here, we know it's probably going to be 25 and under. But when you throw out a sofa, something like that, we have no guidelines. And if we put out a guideline on every material, I can assure you that we're going to get people saying, well, you didn't put this on it. You didn't put this on it. It's a guesstimate. If Mellows comes by and picks up a chair and thinks it's 26 pounds, he's not going to leave it because of one sticker. But if you put one sticker on a sleep sofa, he's going to not take it. I think we're going to try to use common sense on this as best as we can. I don't know if that helps you at all. Huh?
It's the honor system.
Diana Feeney, would you like to address the board?
Yes. Did you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right.
I'm her husband.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Paul. I'm sorry, but I think this is totally bogus for this town. This is, you know, I am upset about the fact that you people went against what we all voted in the survey. And it just doesn't make sense for a rural town like this. I want to know how much negotiations we had with other people to come to a conclusion of why we had to go with Mellow. I don't think Do you people go around and look at the trash on the side of the road when Mello is going around and picking it up? I can't believe you can see all that trash going into those drums. And the other fact is, I think this is a foregone conclusion. The barrels are all up at the DPW. There is no conversation about this. This is, we had a good system, and it probably wasn't the best, but boy, I'll tell you, I can't believe that it's Mello is driving this nail, and I really think it's wrong. I really do. Excuse me, but
That's an opinion. Now, I have one question. My question has to do with, we are on a dead-end road, and what they talked about is putting, you know, it has to be on the opposite, wherever they're gonna drop them is where we're gonna have to provide pickup from. Well, I'm not sure how that's gonna happen. Browns Lane, I will say where I live, is a very thin road, very skinny road. And, you know, you start putting trash barrels on, probably not on my side, but someone else's, and when they plow, when people are trying to get by, it's not going to be so easy. That is one of my big concerns. The other one, you're talking about stickers on items. You're going to see stuff thrown in the woods like you see over by Middle Street because people don't want to get rid of them in a normal fashion. I am afraid that's going to happen. I'm going to be very sad if I see West Newbury start to show trash on the side of the road. Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pat, would you like to address the board?
Yeah, so I do have a quick question. First, I am opposed to this proposal. But my question would be, suppose I had a chair that I need to get rid of and I had to buy a sticker for it. I had heard that you actually have to buy a group of stickers and that they have an expiration date. Is that true?
The stickers for the bulky item?
Correct.
We have not discussed, no, there is, once we have a bulky item sticker, it's not going to be invalid within reason. I mean, if you held it off for 10 years, certainly things may change, but no, they're not invalid. I mean, they don't expire. Sorry about that.
And you can buy one, you don't have to buy like a whole slew of them?
You can buy as many as you want, one or whatever you want, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Is there a Kathleen Boruso who would like to address the board? Kathleen?
I'd like to make another comment. This is Elva Kowal.
Sure, Elva.
Yeah, hi. I agree with Paulina and the other lady about recycling, and we try to do the best we can. And we take most of our things to State Pipe Hill. But I think one of the big issues here is reorganizing State Pipe so that we can do single stream recycling, where we really multi-stream recycling, where we break down everything like they do in other states and countries, you know, down to the plastic bottles, etc. Because many times you go there and the place is really a mess. There's things land on the ground.
And you can't get in.
And it's very difficult to get in when the fence is down all the time. So I think that's really one step in the right direction to, you know, get things in better shape, and would also help to reduce the amount of trash. So I think that's something that needs to be looked at before any decision is made.
Can I make a comment? Just to address that last question or last comment. I spent 20 years in the National Guard out of peace, and we traveled all over the world. In Europe, particularly Germany, they have been set up in every hamlet and town there. One is cardboard, one is paper, one is glass, one is plastic. They already do that. They do it in Europe. They are light years ahead of what we do as far as recycling. From what I've seen here at Pipe State Hill, people could care less. They take their cardboard up there and instead of walking it to the back of the container, they drop it in front. That way the highway department has to go in there probably every Monday and push it back so we can get the rest of this piled up outside. It's because people don't take the time to do what they should do. I mean, we can't hold the hands and all this other kind of stuff, but like I said, Europe is light years ahead of us.
You know, the comment about the recycling and single stream and multi-stream recycling, I think that what we have to appreciate right now, and what I didn't know about until I came on the board and I started understanding that the recycling isn't is altruistic as we may think it is for our community, and that ultimately it's a cost. We're generating more trash, and it's, although some of it may be able to be recycled, I think that that primarily the only thing that may generate some money is actually paper. Is that correct? And we do have, you know, the recycling of different communities is kind of qualified and critiqued, and there's different levels of cleanliness and usability, and West Newbury is very high on our ability to be able to generate recycling that that isn't all contaminated and can actually be used. But I think the bigger picture, which we're not going to fix tonight or be able to do anything with, is to appreciate the fact that that recycling is a great word and it's a great buzzword, but when you really drill down to what it means, it doesn't mean a lot as far as reducing costs. It's still very expensive, and it's another cost that we have, that all municipalities have, that's mandated by the state that we actually participate in. So we're not there yet, and I don't know how it's going to be handled on a local and national level, so that we don't have to worry about or be concerned about sending stuff to China and having China control the cost of our recycling. But I appreciate it's a way bigger issue, and I don't quite understand it. But ultimately, it's all about generating more trash, more recycling. All of it is something that we have to be concerned about continually doing.
Peter Broderick, would you like to address the board?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I just want to agree with many of my fellow townspeople that this is clearly onerous. I don't see it as being well conceived. There are many issues. I don't understand how this can work. On so many levels. So I just want to say I'm against this, and I hope you reconsider.
Thank you for your comment.
Richard Baker, I see that you unmuted yourself. You got another comment?
Yeah, this is Lisa Mingo, Richard Baker's wife.
You're coming a little fuzzy.
Okay, just a minute. Okay, hold on, I'm working on a technical thing. Is that better?
Yeah, it's a little better.
Okay, how about now?
That's much better.
Any clearer? Okay. Paul, I just wanted to tell you that I agree with the Feeneys and Peter Broderick that I'm against this going to this kind of trash can and pickup. I care deeply about the elderly and the disabled population that we have. And the majority of people in this town have these long driveways, and somehow we have to manage getting this trash can to the roadside. I myself have to use a car to cart my can down to the road. And have you got any provision or backup plan for the people like us that have to deal with it this way? Because it won't fit in my car, and I'm really concerned about how I'm going to be able to take care of this. I'm part of this aging population, and you are too, although you don't live in West Newbury. So is there anything in mind, or are there any possibilities for people like the majority of people like myself and our elderly in dealing with this? Do you have a smaller trash can, anything at all? I mean, I know you have them all stacked up at the town sheds there, these cans. And so do you have anything?
Well, first, I'd like to clarify things. So this decision is resting on the three-member board of health and not me as the health agent. So I have no say whether this approach is going to happen or not. So I want to make sure that's clear to all the calls that I'm not involved in this decision of.
Who is
the three members board of health, Bob James, Blake Seal, and Tom Fahey. The three members that you see in front of the camera now are the board of health. I represent the board of health as the agent, but they're the ones that are involved in this regulation change, not myself. I just want to clarify that for people who are listening. So I'll let the board address your question.
Who is involved in this decision then, if you're not?
The board of health, the physical board members themselves, Bob James, Blake Seal, and Tom Fahey, who are all elected members of the board of health.
What is this lady's name, Paul?
Lisa Mingo.
Lisa?
Yes.
Lisa, are you on the computer or you on your phone?
I'm on Richard Baker's site.
So with that said, if you have visual, we're sitting in front of the camera.
What?
I don't know. I'll probably come in there.
What do you need from me?
If you're on a cell phone, this is a three-member board of the Board of Health. Bob James is our chairman, and Tom Fahey and I are members. That is who's making the decision.
Okay, so.
May I ask a question when it's appropriate?
Yes, Chief, we'll be down with Ms. Mingo. We'll get back to you.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's on.
So the three-member board will be making the decision. Will you provide a backup plan or an alternative so that we can get our trash down and picked up to this size barrel?
Ma'am, I've explained at least 10 times this evening.
Okay.
The suggestion that we have, I know people don't want to listen to my suggestion. I'm
late to the meeting, I'm sorry.
What'd she say?
Yeah. I'm late to the meeting, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Okay, that's fine. I suggested putting these large barrels down near the end, not at the end, and you would fill them as needed from your house as you're on your way out.
That may not be so easy when we have snowstorms that bury the barrel. Then we're digging out the barrel in order to get it to the street, and it's just not convenient. It's not easily done, you know?
I do understand that, and I'll be in the same boots as you shoveling out my barrels.
So the earnest of time, there's several callers that I cannot identify because of the no name. So if you're just a caller with no name on the screen, if you'd like to address the board, you can unmute yourself. So please do it in a respectful way.
Okay, I have a question. This is Jean Lambert again.
Go ahead, Jean.
Thank you. With due respect to the members of the board and their health agent, and thanks for all you've done, especially during this COVID pandemic, I'm trying to understand why an issue as significant as this was not brought to town meeting. I know this is what you do on the Board of Health, but it seems that the financial and other considerations here, all of which have been raised today, are very significant. And it seems like this should have been an issue for town meeting. Can someone enlighten me as to the decision-making there, please?
I don't believe we have to go to town meeting to make this decision. It's a decision this board can make by itself.
Okay, it just seemed to be such a big issue, and all of the issues that people have been raised here today in the hearing seem to for me to classify it as a town meeting issue.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, Casey, you got
Yeah.
a reason?
This is actually Casey Swallow. And I think this is important because it is a question that comes up a lot. Town meeting is the legislative branch of the government where we appropriate money. And we appropriate money to fund the various boards and committees, et cetera, that do things for our town. We do not direct these boards and committees in terms of how they administer their duties. And so we have a kind of a fine line here, because although we do appropriate the money for waste disposal, we do not make the rules or make the contracts with the waste disposal companies. So our input is in the budgetary part of the whole thing. So if you wish to object to this, one thing you could do is just not appropriate the money for waste disposal, which would cause a problem. But that is the function of town meeting, is appropriating money, not making rules for the various boards and offices.
Is that
Thank
a
you,
comment?
Casey.
Okay, I didn't know if that was a comment or a question.
Clarification.
I can't hear.
Oh, that was a response to Mrs. Lambert's question about shouldn't this be taken up at town meeting?
Oh, okay. I just can't hear that well. I apologize.
And so my response was, well, it is taken up in town meeting with respect to the fact that we do appropriate the money
Correct.
for waste disposal. And that is our power in town meeting, to either appropriate or not appropriate the money. But we do not tell the various commissions, including the Board of Health, what to do. We give them the money to do it, and then they make the decisions.
Thank you. I just couldn't understand you at first, but that was nice and loud that time. Thank you.
Is there any members on this call that have not spoken and would like to do so?
Paul, this is Angus. I did just want to clarify the one point on the budgeting, because I, understand that if the town did not make this change, the FY22 budget would need to increase more significantly by about 20,000. But the way it was stated earlier, I could see people coming away with the impression that the budget is actually going to go down 20,000. So if you could just clarify that point.
What's he saying?
They had trouble hearing you, Angus. Could you restate that?
Yeah, it was stated earlier that the switch would save the town $20,000 roughly.
Yes.
But I think that the intent is to say that if the town did not make this change, the costs would increase more than they are increasing, because the costs are going to go up next year, even with this change.
Correct.
So I think that needs to be clarified, because I think that the way it was stated, people could misunderstand.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't know the dollar figure, but, if we didn't do what we're doing now,
Yes, our budget would go
our
up.
budget would go up,
Correct.
but I'm not sure the dollar amount it would go up.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Angus, too, we kind of already we definitely made a contract with the Mello Corporation last year. And then he gave us leniency, if I might say, on the trash that we picked up this year. So I think what Angus is saying is that if we go to vote at town meeting for the budget for our trash removal, it will increase $20,000. Is that what you want me to make?
Well, the budget's going up even with this change. The budget with this change would go up more.
Correct, yes. I just don't know how you want me to explain it to them. I mean. Okay, good. All right, how many more callers we
Is
got?
there anyone else who'd like to address the board of health in regards to this, hearing?
I have a question about logistics, and I missed the beginning, so I apologize. Will Pipe Stave be open more than just Saturdays? Because my concern is with all the sports and everyone trying to recycle on Saturday morning, the congestion and the traffic will be overwhelming.
No, it will not be open. The gates will not be open any more than they are right now. They will be open Saturday from 8 in the morning till 12. But anyone can always walk in their recycling materials at any time. That has been like that for years. Did I answer it? The only thing I would like to address, I'm not going to try to address, but I know we had a comment from, I believe his name was Nathan Kelly earlier. Huh? He's on the finance committee. What you were looking at, if you're still on, Nathan, is the December 10th, 2002, when we went from nothing to trash pickup. That's what we did. What, if you look at our calendar or on our website, okay, we had another waste reduction program that went into effect as of January 1st, 2010. You were quoting the one which kind of caught me off guard, so I apologize, was on December 10th, 2002. We've had we've amended that ever since that on January 1st, 2010. I hope I made myself clear. Go onto our website, look at our calendar, it is clear there.
Can I address that?
Sure.
Does a program have the same legal standing as a regulation? And if so, why would you not be using the regulation that you're looking to vote on tonight to change the program that was passed in 2010 rather than what it is? It says that it's changing is the 2002 regulation.
We have, if the board decides tonight, we will renege, cancel the 2010. Is that what you're asking? The 2000.
No, so the 2002 is a regulation, not a program. And my belief is that the 2002 regulation has a greater standing than the program, regardless, even if you were to use the 2010 numbers. It has two figures on there. It has a 32 gallon barrel, which you're correct, that is 64, but it also gives residents the option to have 4 18-gallon bags, which is 72 gallons of trash. And if you go from 72 gallons of trash to 65 gallons of trash, that is a 9.7% reduction.
If I'm not, I mean, I will have to check with town council on one thing. I would assume back in 2002, we had that, and then in 2010, we got rid of that regulation.
Either way, it is either a 9.7 reduction in terms of the choice a resident can make, or a 63.9% reduction. It's one or the other. Those are clear numbers.
Nathan, which regulation are you looking at?
The 2002, okay, I'm looking at two different regulations, so I'll quote whichever one you want to go with. So
how about December 10th, 2002?
So the one, I have a photocopy of that was sent to me by Mr. Jennings tonight, and according to the 2002 regulation, it says 4 45-gallon barrels.
Correct.
And if you go from 4 45-gallon barrels to 1 65-gallon barrel, that is a reduction of 63.9%.
There was also another one after that that we went from.
Yes, sir, in 2010. In 2010, and that is a.
In 2010,
Yep.
we went to 2 32-gallon barrels.
Or 4 18-gallon bags of trash. That's what it says. Keep reading. And because if you add 4 18-gallon bags of trash, that's 72 gallons of trash. So residents would have the choice of 2 barrels, 32 gallons, or 4 bags, 18 gallons. Those do not equal each other. Those sizes do not match. So a resident could choose the 72 gallons of trash by putting out 4 18-gallon bags. And if you go from 72 gallons of trash to 65 gallons of trash, that is a 9.7% reduction.
I am looking at something right now that says as of January 1st, 2010, the Board of Health implemented a waste reduction program. Each household is allowed to set out at curbside 2 32-gallon barrels or the equivalent. Waste exceeding the 2-barrel limit will not be collected. There is no mention in this regulation of two 18-gallon barrels.
Although someone,
Well, I can see.
maybe right.
I can find it and I can pull it up for later, but I don't have it in front of me right now.
Oh, if you send it
I
to
can
me.
certainly talk to you guys tonight at our finance committee meeting.
Well, no, this
Got time for that.
No, this is to be addressed here now.
Okay, well, why don't you address another person's question and I'll find it for you.
All right, thank you. I know it's in our website, I'm sure, but.
I have a question.
Good, Paul, take them. Yeah,
I was just wondering, why is it up to Nathan, Mr. Kelly, to demonstrate what the regulations are? Why isn't it up to the board to have complete confidence? I don't understand why you're asking him to.
we're not asking him. He brought up something and we're checking into it.
Well, no, you had just said that this has to be finalized right now. You just said his question has to be finalized right now.
Correct, we're not gonna take it up at our FinCom meeting. That is correct.
Okay.
What is wrong with that? We want to discuss it now in a public hearing.
Well, it just sounded like you were putting the burden of proof on him, that's all.
I'm not putting the burden of proof, but when we have a FinCom meeting, we decide our finances. We don't discuss trash reduction. That's why I'm putting it now. I'm trying to figure out what he's saying. Well, I see what, I'm looking at the website. If you people see me looking at my phone, I'm looking at the website. And I'm. Yeah, Paul, take someone else and someone else answer because I'm.
Colleen, would like to address the board?
418, 14.8, yeah. Oh, I see what he's saying. 18.
Okay,
18.
I found it, sir. I found it, gentlemen. I found it.
I found it too, because I'm on the website.
And it says effective January 1st, 2010. It is a link that if you go from the trash and recycling program, it goes to waste reduction program. And on the waste reduction program, it clearly states, or 4 18-gallon bags. This is what the public has access to. And that would be 72 gallons of trash, which if you go from 72 to 65, that's a 9.7% reduction, as I've stated multiple times.
I do see that in here, Nathan. I'm looking right at it myself. And first that I've ever noticed that it says 418. You're absolutely correct. It makes no sense. It doesn't. I can't change the history of what we had with.
No.
We are trying to change it to eliminate all the past waste reduction plans and programs and move on to a new one is what our intent is. If we've been wrong, I guess for the last 11 years, then I apologize.
I mean, I'd make one last comment before I see you guys later tonight. And there was a comment made about democracy and that sort of thing. And, you know, what I would say is when you're elected to an office, part of the role, yes, you're expected to make good decisions for the town, but you're also expected to listen to your constituents. And I think there's an overwhelming majority of constituents who here tonight have been opposed to this project or this proposal. I can only recall one supportive comment tonight from Ms. Grammer. Otherwise, every other comment tonight has been against this. And I would ask you gentlemen to listen to your constituents.
Okay. Well, if you send me an email, I can refer all the comments I've gotten from people who think it's a wonderful idea. We've had approximately 100 calls tonight, and we probably haven't, everyone who has called, for the most part, except for one, is against it. We apologize.
All right, anybody else?
Any other comments from the people on the call tonight? Or
Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Colleen McClung has been trying to get in and without success, and she would like to speak.
Sure, sure. Paul will try to do that for us.
Colleen, are you there?
yes, she's not muted. She's showing up as green.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
There we go. Okay, you can hear me? Everybody's good?
Yes.
Okay, I have a couple questions. I thank you very much for having this hearing. I think it's very important for the taxpayers to be heard. I also have had great experiences with Mello so far, but with all due respect, are there other companies that aren't forcing this setup that the town has looked into?
Yeah, yes, we did.
And everybody is switching to automated and the cost is the same?
JRM wouldn't sign with us if you want to, I don't know if I should really name names. I prefer not to say it after. Wouldn't even talk to us unless they got a 10-year contract. We're not interested in getting into a 10-year contract with anyone. There was also another company. There was two other companies that they were so busy that they couldn't even think about taking us on. So yes, we did go out for negotiation. We asked the people and they responded in different ways. And Mr. Mello's was the cheapest.
Okay, and so if some of the problem here is, I think a lot of people have an issue with the amount of recycling and not being able to get rid of it. So is it a possibility to consider getting 2 recycling barrels per house? Or if requested, getting 2 recycling barrels per house?
I would say no. Unless you're going to pay for it.
What about getting a pickup every week instead of every other week?
It's not what we negotiated our contract. We've negotiated for the last, how many years have we been with you, Jason, with recycling?
20.
Almost 20 years. I know we haven't recycled that whole thing, but as a standard, we put out to the other companies if they would give us a quote on exactly what we were getting from the Mello Co-op, and whatever, we got no response, or they were higher, or they didn't want to follow our contracts. So I'm not really sure, what you want us to add to that. You get.
If we went
I just
to
don't like
every-
I don't like having to pay extra for my trash. We're a household of 4, and I'm absolutely going to have to pay extra for at least another recycling barrel, and or take things to the dump every weekend and pipe stave every weekend. I moved here from a town that didn't have trash pickup, and it was horrendous trying to go every weekend to the transfer station to bring trash and recycling. The recycling was still a mess, even though it was multi-stream. And we would sit in traffic for an hour every Sunday morning, which is not how I want to spend my weekends. That was one of the best parts of my daily life change moving here, was on the weekends not having to do that. So I don't want to go back to that. So I don't actually even know where the dump is. It's in Georgetown?
Are you talking about a recycling center, ma'am? Or when you say dump means a little bit different.
The transfer station, for the garbage.
Well, the transfer station is something that the Mellows own. We, as residents, generally don't go there.
Right, but we're gonna have, if we have excess garbage and don't pay for an extra barrel, we're gonna have to take our own garbage there, correct?
If you do not decide to buy a barrel from us, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yes, well, you can take it any way you want, ma'am, but that's where we would recommend. You can take it wherever you want.
You can bring garbage anywhere for free?
No, no, meaning we can't tell you have to take it to Mello's transfer station. That's what I meant by that. You can take it to a place if you'd like.
Okay, but if we do take it to the Mello transfer station, it's free?
No.
How much does it cost to bring a barrel of trash to the Mellow transfer station?
A small kitchen bag is $1. A large black bag is $3.
And how many, I completely disagree with that cost, and I'm sure everybody else does too. But how many towns also bring trash to the Mellow transfer station in Georgetown?
It's just open to the public.
It's open to the public. Someone can come down from Maine to use it, ma'am. It's not limited.
I see. I would expect a lot more people to be going there on the weekends or whatever during the week now, though, if we're only limited to one trash barrel in our regular.
Ma'am, how many barrels do you put out right now?
I only use 2 32-gallon barrels as is on a normal, in a normal 2 weeks, but there are certainly weeks where I can't shut the cover and I have bags sticking out, or I have a bag on the side that Mellow has been great in picking up. So there will definitely be weeks where I have trash that I need to bring, which I don't think is fair considering we've gone this long not having to do that.
All right. I understand your frustration. I mean, we do. But you unfortunately have that avenue of paying for the extra barrel or driving down to Mr. Mello's or another transfer station.
So now, so now also, and just so I just want to make sure that I just want to be clear about what I'm going to have to do now. So if I don't want to buy an extra trash barrel and an extra recycling barrel, I have to go to Pipe Stave to drop off my recycling and to a transfer station to drop off my trash, right?
Correct.
And I mean, with the recycling alone, how many Amazon boxes does every household have to get rid of every week? That, I mean, Mellow has been great in taking all of the cardboard stacked up nicely inside one cardboard box. And now, I mean, that guaranteed that everybody's going to have to go to Pipe Stave to drop off their cardboard alone, every week. And it's the traffic is going to be ridiculous.
I can sympathize with you. I work for the post office and I can't tell you the amount of Amazon packages I deliver in a day. So I know exactly what you're talking about with cardboard.
And we can't work into a contract at all that the houses that need it get an extra recycling bin. I think that would help solve a lot of these issues.
You guys I've commented too many times.
Actually, no, because you're throwing away, everybody's throwing away one barrel, you're throwing away two for the same cost that they do it for one. So in other words, you're throwing yours away for nothing. So
I don't know if you guys are reading the comments at all, but it's the same idea as taxpayers paying for the middle school and high school that their kids aren't going to.
It's been that way forever.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
And just a side comment as well, if we've been with Mellow for 20 years, I don't see the problem in signing a 10-year contract with another company that would do what we want.
They wouldn't have done anything different. They were also on automated, but they wanted a 10-year contract. That's true.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, one more question.
Sure.
Another, somebody else had asked about Pipe Stave, the hours at Pipe Stave when they're open. And I think you said people can walk in at any time, but what's the difference between walking in and the hours that it's actually open? Same thing?
What are we talking about?
Pipe Stave. It's open 8 to 12 on Saturday.
Yeah.
You can just drive in. But any day during the week, particularly during daylight hours, you can drive up, park out front, and carry your stuff in.
Oh, physically walk it in.
You can physically walk in.
Yeah.
So the recycling center is staffed by the recycling coordinator, 8 to 12 every Saturday, but 24/7 residents can pull up to the gate and physically walk around the gate to any container that's in there.
Okay, I understand now. I mean, 8 to 12 is on Saturdays is going to be absolutely bonkers with sports and everything. But it's also this is also a comment towards the elderly and seniors and disabled people who can't just pull up and walk their heavy recycling in. I think it's a terrible idea. And
That's it. I've said my piece. Thank you for listening. I hope you reconsider.
You're welcome.
All right, if you might want to finish up, you also.
If there's anybody else out there to talk.
Yeah, I have a question to piggyback on Colleen's. You mentioned that trash and recycling is evolving, and the contract was not negotiated for picking up recycling every week. Is there a possibility to change that? Can we offer a new contract from the Mello Company to pick up recycling once a week, not every other week?
You can ask Jim, you can ask Jason.
No, it's not Jason. Absolutely we can. But we, it's obviously going to cost us additional funds. Is it something to talk about? I guess if we get going with this program and something unfortunately doesn't go the way we're planning, we certainly can talk to the Mello Corporation. I know he would gladly do it.
It would be a bigger savings to stay as we are than to do once per week recycling. We know that from the trucks and the amount of how often the labor would take to do that. So it would cost way more than $20,000 to do that.
What, to do it every week? Oh, it's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
more.
So in other words, we should keep doing what we're doing right now and accept the additional $20,000 cost to continue to go on for, as we are, then to consider, doing once per week recycling, because that would be a substantial increase in cost, more than just $20,000.
Anybody else?
This is Alvin again. I just agreeing with Pete online. He's asking, isn't the solution to this really a town-wide vote, even if it's, at the very last minute? You say that there've been a lot of positive comments about the system. It would be really great to see that and see the numbers. If you look on Nextdoor West Newbury, you look on Facebook, I've run into many negative comments that really echo what I've heard this evening. And I just think in a democratic process, that would make a lot of sense. I don't know if it's too late, and if it's too late, then what was the point of this meeting? All that said, I'm totally for the recycling, keeping down trash, et cetera, et cetera. That's not the point. I go back to the safety issues, the problems for the elderly, the whole snow issue. It's very complex. Mm-hmm. And also, one last thing is, the whole situation at Save Pipe Hill. I go there almost every week. Sometimes because we have so much recycling, Horst and I go together. The whole thing needs to be reorganized in a better system.
Okay. So what I'd like to say as a board member is this is the first time that I've gone through this process. And I think that the comments that everybody are making are, very valuable and need to be considered as far as their concerns. I think we made an effort to get a barometer on how people felt about trash pickup. And we gave a, kind of a contrasting view of, do you want to pay for pickup? Do you want to pay for pickup? Yes. Do you want to pay for pickup, or do you want to keep things the way they are right now? And I think the board took that and said, okay, people don't want to have to pay as you dispose of. And then we looked at the different options that were available and the cost, and we considered that. And we felt that automated would be the correct way for what we've already discussed and explained as far as our thought process. But after this, this meeting and getting the impact from everybody in town, I think that there are some considerations that we may have, I may have minimized as far as the impact on people in town and need to be considered. But I think ultimately we're moving in a direction where there will be change because I don't think the cost is sustainable with what we're doing right now, because we have less of a contained tonnage that we have right now. And I think that, that the benefits that we see in the trend going towards automated is something that we can't ignore and that we have to consider. But in listening to everybody's comments, I think that we do have to consider some things. And I think there were some great comments that people made about concerns outside of what could be conceived as just one person being concerned about elderly and disabled people, one person being concerned about the recycling and how often they're going to be able to put their recycling out, and the ability to transport stuff out the pipe state. And I understand that, but ultimately what this comes down to, if there is a trend to push back on this, and I think that it seems like there is a trend to, want to push back on this change, ultimately it's going to cost us more money. And I think that that is where the consideration has to be, is if we want to continue doing things the way that we're doing them right now, it will cost us more money going forward, unless we start to try to make some changes to help to abate it a little bit as far as the cost increase. So I valued all the input that everybody had to say tonight. I think it was very enlightening for me to see the trends of how people feel about this, and I just want to thank people for enlightening me on how people have concerns about this outside of what I think is a good thing to do. So thank you very much.
I also thank you.
All right, is there anybody else who would like to speak? All right, one last chance. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Okay.
When will we know what the final decision is?
In about 10 minutes.
And will it be posted somewhere, or?
It'll be on the website.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Well, to clarify, you're having a public meeting right now, so we can wait and watch, right?
Correct.
It's up to you. We're not going to.
Absolutely.
Okay, just wanted to make sure everyone knew that.
Oh, yeah. Yep. We're not going nowhere.
I want to make sure everybody's had a chance to speak before we close the meeting. We won't be going off the air, but I want to be able to make sure everybody's had a right to comment. All right, hearing no more comments, I'm going to close this public hearing. I'm going to open it up to discussion for the board. I would like to say a couple of things to the public. We knew going into this, when we were going to try to do this a year ago, COVID got in the way and we couldn't do it. We wanted to have this meeting a year ago. We knew going into it, there was going to be some issues, particularly those people like myself, in a way, that have a long driveway. That's going to be an issue. There are also some elderly people that live on long driveways that are going to have the same issue. One of the biggest issues coming up, I don't see there's going to be a huge amount of problem with the trash, because I generally see one barrel on a Monday out on the road going up. So I would think the barrel we have now, or we're going to go to, will handle it quite nicely. The one issue I do see, and that's going to be recycling, particularly with cardboard. If you don't break the boxes down, if you don't cut them up so they'll fit in a box, you're going to get about 3 boxes in there, and they may not even come out when they're tipped. I know going in, that's going to be an issue. It's something we're going to have to work on. But I think, given the way the industry's going and the business sense from Jason, I think this is probably the best way to go. I know not everybody's going to like it, but they didn't like it when we went from 4 barrels to 2. So we're just going from 2 barrels to 1. So the gallonage is still the same. Again, I want to thank everybody for commenting. And now we'll leave it, open it up to the rest of the board. Anybody else want to speak?
I have really nothing to say about it. I mean, I do apologize for, certain things we couldn't answer. We had certainly trying to do our best here and trying to do the best for the community. I've spoken with a couple other people in different towns that have actually gone to it. You will get used to it. I know that's easier said than done, but I also going to change my Friday routine also, along with bringing my trash up to the barrels at the end. So I'm in the same boat as you, and I thank you for your support.
Okay.
I have one comment.
Yeah.
Yes, by all means.
So my opinion on this after this public hearing is that I have concerns about our ability to, as far as the set barrel of 65 gallon, I have concerns about having some kind of other option for the elderly or disabled that may find it more difficult to move their trash around, whether it's down driveways, long driveways, short driveways, or whatever. And I know that that Mr. Mello had mentioned that that there are a lot of good options as far as smaller gallon containers that may accommodate people that have more of a concern. But I think that in looking at how this is written right now, I have concerns about not being able to give them an option of something smaller that they could potentially use and negotiate and wheel a little bit better. So I have concerns about this and the fact that there isn't a smaller size option barrel that somebody wants to generate less trash and wants to have it a little bit easier to move that around. The other thing I have an issue with is how practical it is to, when I look at the amount of recycling that's out right now, when people have recycling weeks, how much cardboard there is, as Chairman James had just mentioned. And I don't think it's reasonable. I think people are generating so much cardboard that I don't think it's reasonable to say that many people can actually use the 65 gallon just every 2 weeks, and then to put it on them to go up the pipe state. So I have concerns about that. So I'm wondering about the concern, the possibility of an extra recycling barrel as an option that would be given out to people. I do feel pretty confident that the total amount of trash, as far as 65 gallons, is something that we should, that I support. But I do have concerns about a smaller barrel option and also the ability to accommodate curbside pickup of extra recycling, and that whether or not one 65 gallon per address is appropriate. But I really do appreciate everybody talking about that. But those are the concerns that I have about this right now, this regulation right now. Anybody have any comments about that on the board?
I do. I have to kind of agree with Tom. Like I said when I made my statement a little earlier, I knew there was going to be an issue or anticipated some issues with recycling, mainly because of all the cardboard boxes. And I know we have more than a few elderly folks in town that barrel, it would take them 6 months to fill up. I'd like to see if we can somehow address both issues. I'm not sure how. And I'm not sure if it's wise to, vote for this tonight without going through some of the other options. I really don't, I really kind of have mixed emotions. I'm just not sure. I'm just personally at this point just not sure. Like you?
Nope. So it's up to you, Chairman, if you want to postpone the vote. It's up to you.
I think that the fees for additional carts has to be reconsidered. That also would have to be reconsidered as far as the, you know, the potential for, well, if the board considers the fact, reconsiders the additional cost, that would be, and then the additional support that we're getting from the community as far as an additional recycling bin, then that would probably defer a lot of the costs of the additional recycling or trash containers. I think that the fee schedule for additional trash and for additional recycling and bulk items is reasonable. I think those are reasonable as far as when you break it down, cost per month, it's not a lot of money, and it's a curbside pickup for those additional, an additional trash barrel or an additional recycling. But if the board were to reconsider whether or not we would supply an additional recycling bin, that would be something that would defer some of the costs, where people wouldn't have to do that as much.
I'm sure Mr. Miller would definitely give each household an extra bill, but I'm not sure he's gonna care for his $17,000 that he has to pay, so we would have to negotiate that with Mr. Mello. At 1,700 barrels at $100 a piece is $17,000. We would have to negotiate with Mr. Mello.
And I think that, as I said previously, any of these changes that we're proposing right now, you know, is a byproduct of us spending more money to do that. But we've also heard clearly from the people in town about their concerns, and I think it's invaluable for us to make a better decision about how we handle this.
I don't want to correct you, but it's 170,000.
170,000. I knew I missed a zero there. Yeah, absolutely, gentlemen.
They make the 36, I don't know if it's a 35 or 36, yeah. Car.
Right now?
They make them.
Oh, okay.
I have some. And if you want to put the option that if they can't handle the 65, that they can swap it out for a smaller one, I don't have a problem with that. But I would ask everyone to just try it first, because this barrel is so much easier to wield and maneuver than the smaller ones. They're not as sturdy, they're very tipsy, and you're gonna have a much easier time using this than you would with the 35. I understand the 35 is easier to put it in the back of your car. That's a valuable argument, but I just ask the people try it first. And if we have to swap some of them out, so be it. They might not have the Town of West Newbury logo on.
Right.
On them to get that.
Yeah, right.
So do we want to vote for this as it is, or do we want to postpone it and change the language in the bylaw?
I would like to make a motion that that we table this for the fiscal year 21-413221 65-gallon automated curbside trash and recycling cart regulation. That the board reconsiders this as written, including the considerations that I have mentioned and you have mentioned. And with that, we make a decision on that. We reconsider that at this point, the wording of that. I make a motion for that.
All right, I'll second that.
What do we, I guess, again.
I'm going to postpone the vote on
Okay.
this.
Yep.
To kind of address, you know, Tom's concern and my concern about the extra barrels and stuff like that, and how we're going to work that in, so that it's kind of fair for everybody.
Yep.
Or at least, but I go along with Jason. I think they should try this one first. If it doesn't work, and it legitimately doesn't work, not just because I don't want it, Right. Legitimately doesn't work, we'll see what we can do about replacing it with a smaller one. But I would urge everybody, when you do finally make the vote, to at least give this one an opportunity. You may find you like it better than the other one.
I think people are gonna ask to swap it out and regret it afterwards. And then they'll want to buy back again. In all honesty, more people than not are gonna panic, want the smaller barrel, and then realize that.
I would think that it would be the duty of the board to discuss that and review that and offer some options, more thoughtful options, including qualifying the decision-making and that they would make on smaller one or not trying out the larger one. But I think there's enough issues here and concerns here that it needs to be discussed as a board at our meetings with the ability for people to comment during our meetings if they would choose to on our discussions.
Right.
I would also like to make a motion that.
No, we still got one motion first. First, gotta make another one.
Okay.
Would you want to repeat the first one so that we can vote on that?
The first motion would be in regards to the fiscal year 21/41321 65-gallon automated curbside trash and recycling regulation be tabled at this point for the board to reconsider the contents of that regulation.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Do we have a roll call vote? Bob James, aye.
Like Seal, Tom.
Pompey,
Like Seal, no.
And your second motion?
my second motion is to, regarding the automated curbside collection, the fees for additional carts. I vote that with the potential change in the 65-gallon curbside trash and recycling cart regulation, it would not be appropriate to approve. I make a motion not to table the curbside collection fees for additional carts at this time until we have clarified the cart regulation, the trash cart regulation.
Okay, I'll second that. Roll call vote. Bob James, aye.
Pompey,
Like Seal, no.
Okay. It's, 2-1. We will postpone this regulation until we have a better chance to take a look at it, which will hopefully be at our next meeting, or just as soon as we can get one posted.
What did she say? Do not, I'm just listening to Jay. Do not close meeting. Tabling will allow to continue conversation. What does that mean?
you have to close the meeting.
I thought we had to close the meeting.
Yeah, everybody said the comment.
Yeah,
We
okay.
voted. And the only other thing we had, the only thing was on the agenda was this.
No, I think he's meaning table the meeting and reschedule another meeting.
I just,
Okay.
I don't know the regulations, you know what I mean? That's why I think she's just
Okay,
trying to keep us.
so instead of closing this one, we need to table it and make another date.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
table it.
Thanks, Paul. I wasn't sure what you meant.
How long do you think it would take for us to come up with, to sit down and go through this, Dr. Jason, and figure out where we're going from here?
We have to have a date on when we're gonna vote on it.
We have to have a date.
Well, we meet on it and/or.
Well, if we're postponing this meeting,
Right,
we have to go to a postpone to a date certain.
right. Okay.
Yeah, so we have to have a certain date in mind that we're going to.
Alright.
We're going to meet again to discuss. it.
Okay. All right.
So can we do that at a standard meeting? Is that correct? Standard Board of Health meeting?
We can continue until next week. I wouldn't make it drag on too long.
No, I wouldn't let it drag on long. No, this is basically a public hearing, so we postponed the hearing, so we have to reopen the hearing.
Okay.
So we can't do that as a meeting.
Do you have to republish it?
No, that's what Jane just did
No,
put.
put it
But
online.
we need to tell him tonight, because she said, you don't have to repost it if we continue it.
No, we just have to postpone the date certain,
Right.
so we just have to make sure what date we're gonna do it.
So I will pick next Tuesday.
Well, is it ever good? It's good with me. I'm not sure if it's good with everyone. So when we,
So we'll postpone the final discussion on this public hearing until a week from today, at 4:30?
that'd be the 20th, Bob.
All right.
It'll be
okay, so-
Tuesday,
so
April 20th, yeah.
At 4:30 PM?
Yeah.
So we won't be meeting as a board, we'll be meeting in the format of a public hearing.
Yeah, we'll be meeting as we are now, as in a form of a public meeting.
Okay, okay. So the board wouldn't meet as a board meeting.
We're gonna have to meet as a board meeting to discuss the changes.
Okay, so it wouldn't be reasonable for us to have a public hearing next week if we don't have a meeting to.
We just continue in this public hearing to next week. We don't close this hearing, we continue it. For next week.
Correct.
Yeah, but we've got to work in a meeting of our own.
We can get rid of that.
Okay. Good, yep, that's fine with me.
Yeah, we can do that meeting prior to. But or another night, I would prefer another night.
Yeah, me too.
I always say that we clarify, we vote to move this public hearing until next week. And we go for April 20th at
4:30 PM.
Which is what we did, right?
Yeah.
No, I guess we need another roll call vote. All in favor? Bob James, aye?
Blake CLI?
Okay,
Okay, so we postpone until next Tuesday, 4:30.
Correct. We all set?
We're all set as far as the public hearing goes.
I don't know what this is. Public hearing, I'm just not sure. Oh, I have that. All right, we're done, Mr. Paul.
You're done.
Thank you, gentlemen, for
If anybody is still on, thank you, and we'll see you again next year.